Sports Gumbo here. We're going to break down our SEC power rankings, our top 10 nationally, our mid year coach of the year, and our mid year player of the year. So we're going to jump right into our SEC power rankings. Kevin, want to get us started there?
Yes. So I'm. This is. I'm going to base this on just conference season, where I think things are headed, where things are at now, and where I think things are headed. Um, Within that. I say that to say I have Florida number one. Obviously, Florida has not been the best team since the beginning of the year, but I do think once they've got inside conference play, they've been the best team. Had a disappointing loss at Auburn or to Auburn last weekend, but I still think they're playing the best. And when Boogie Flan's playing at the point, I think that they had the best overall team, the best front line in the SEC. Number two, I'm going to go with Bama, just the best overall roster, I think, in the SEC. Three, I'll go with Arkansas and Darius Acuff, the best freshman, I think, in the SEC. Four, Texas A&M. I'm going to call them the best coach team in the SEC at this moment. Play at an incredible pace, and Bucky just does a great job with them. Five would be the second best coach team in the SEC with Tennessee and Rick Barnes. Six, I'm going to go Auburn. Seven, Vandy. I think Auburn's starting to play better. That's why I'm going to put them ahead of Vandy. Seven, Vandy. Eight, Kentucky. And Kentucky's fortunate to have a couple wins. They would be about 10 or 11, to be honest with you. It's going to be interesting to me to see how they finish. They got wiped out the other night at Vandy, and they go to Arkansas tomorrow. Look, if they lose by 15 after losing by almost 30 on the road to Vandy, um, there's going to be some strength people in Kentucky if they have another double-digit loss to Arkansas. Nine, I'm going to go Georgia, a team that has had some good wins. Disappointing loss at home the other night to Tennessee, a 1 point loss in overtime. From there, I'm going to go 10 Ole Miss, a talented roster, but just hadn't gelled yet. 11 Missouri, 12 Texas, and I probably honestly feel like I might flip those with 11 Texas, 12 Missouri. I think I'd go that. 13 Mississippi State, 14 South Carolina, 15 LSU, and seven to the team that's lost seven straight games, and that's Oklahoma. So that would be my top 16 teams. When I look down and say how many teams do I think will make the NCAA tournament, right now I think I would go with probably 9 teams. I don't think Ole Miss gets in. I think Georgia right now would be on the cusp. I think they would get in. And Kentucky would get in, but Kentucky could play their way out. So that would be my top group. Who wants next?
I'll go. I'll make mine short and sweet because, admittedly, I haven't watched a ton of NCAA hoops this year, so I'm not going to lie to you people. But starting off at the bottom of the list, I, I, both these teams are so bad I can't really call one worse than the other. But LSU and Oklahoma, both teams are sitting at 1-7. Highly disappointing season, especially for our boy McMahon down on the Bayou. Expected a lot better this year and haven't seen it. We're probably pretty sure he's on his way out, if not before the end of the season, at season's end. So both those teams are on the bottom for me. After that, I got South Carolina at 14. Just lack of talent, lack of leadership, lack of performance, everything. After that, oh, beg your pardon. I was going in reverse there. I got Ole Miss at 12. I'm not really sold on Ole Miss as a basketball program, and part of this could be just hate for all the football garbage that we've been listening to for the past few months. So I'm a fan and a realist. So like I said, I'm just telling the truth up here. After that, I've got Mississippi State, their heated rival. I don't know if what they call their basketball game, if that's like the egg drop soup or whatever it is, but I know they hate each other, and I'm just Mississippi State's a better team right now for me. After that, I beg your pardon, I'm going with Texas, Mizzou, Alabama, and I know Kev, you're high on Bama. I don't know, they've struggled a little bit this year in conference, and I've watched a few of their games, and Oates, it just doesn't seem like he's been coaching as well as he did in the past. I think they have the talent. I think his coaching is what's hurting those guys at present. After that, I've got Georgia, and I put Georgia, Kentucky, and Tennessee all kind of in the same place there. And Kentucky, like you said, could be lower. I mean, they had two games where they came back from 17 down in the second half to beat LSU and Tennessee in the same week, so they could just as easily be 3-5 as they are 5-3. But at the end of the day, they won the games. That's what you got to do. After that, I got Vanderbilt at 5. They got it rolling in Nashville, and I got Auburn at 4. They're starting to play really good ball. Wouldn't surprise me to see them higher at the end of the year. But Pearl's got them one. I think they've won 4 in a row now, and are starting to hit their stride. At 3, I've got Arkansas. 2, Texas A&M, who's the conference leader right now. And number 1, I'm with you, Kev. I got Florida. I think they're the most talented roster in the league. Good coaching, strong guard play. They just like what they're doing in Gainesville. So that's my conference wrap up. DMAC.
Yeah. So number 1, I've got Florida. You guys said it. Best roster, best team in the SEC. Number 2 is where I want to. Well, same as you, Sweets. I got Arkansas at 2, Texas A&M at 3, who best coach team right now in the SEC. Auburn at 4, who's really catching stride. Tennessee at 5, Vandy at 6, Kentucky at 7. I've got Alabama at 8, Georgia at 9, Ole Miss at 10, Texas at 11, Mississippi State at 12, Missouri at 13, South Carolina at 14, Oklahoma at 15, and LSU at 16 after the tough loss at home to Mississippi State this week. So that rounds out my power rankings right now for the SEC. I'm with you, Kevin. I think 9 is the most likely scenario, but I would not be surprised to see either 8 or 10 teams. 9's the safe bet, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there's only 8 or if Ole Miss plays their way in somehow. They've got a really good roster. Chris Beard's a good coach. They're just not clicking yet. And at the halfway point of SEC basketball, you want to be clicking a little more at this point. So that's my 16. Any other SEC thoughts before we dive into the national top 10?
Really not much. I think the league is starting to, we're almost halfway through conference play now, and the teams are starting to show who they are. Like I said, being LSU people has just been really disappointing to watch. But there's some good basketball being played at the top of the conference, so I think that the SEC will represent well in the tournament. Kev?
Well, I would just say that I kind of agree with both your all sentiments on Bama. There's something in that roster that has just not worked as well this year as it has in the past. Doesn't mean that they can't take it that next step up and be who everyone expected them to be when they were. A lot of people had them in the top 8 in the preseason nationally. Let me also kind of just throw this here. Basketball is a different sport, and I think we all understand this. You really, as you play through your season and go into the tournament, basketball is often played like in quarters. I mean, this time last year, Auburn was the best team. And when you got to the SEC tournament, that's when Florida really started playing their best basketball and carried that into the NCAA tournament. So out of these teams that we've talked about, I guess the other thing that I would say from an SEC and just a national standpoint, there's probably at least, and I wouldn't say A&M because I think they're overachieving. There's probably at least 5 teams, 4 to 5 teams in the SEC that if they start, if they elevated their game to just a little bit, could make a run to the Final Four.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have Bama low. I think that Nate Oates, great coach, but I think they've got some distractions this year, especially in the last couple of weeks with the waiver addition, of a player. So I think that they're gonna be in postseason. And as long as they're playing, they're a team that I see similar to Florida last year, that they can get it going at any time. So if they get it going into the SEC tournament, Bama's just as dangerous as anybody in the country when they're clicking. So over to our national top 10. I'll go ahead and do my top 10 first. I've got Arizona number 1, UConn number 2, Duke at number 3, and then I've got Michigan at 4, Michigan State at 5, Gonzaga at 6, Nebraska at 7, Houston at 8, Iowa State at 9, and BYU at 10. I think BYU is a little underrated, sitting at 13, 14 in the AP poll. So that's my top 10. No SEC teams in there right now. So cannot call SEC bias on us here. Sweets, who do you have?
I'm with you. I'll go in reverse at 10. I've got BYU, and like you, I think they are underrated. And I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna screw up his name, AJ Debonsha. That kid is the truth. He is incredible. If you haven't watched BYU and want to see a ball player, go watch them and that kid. He's really special. At number 9, I got Illinois. At 8, I've got Houston. Love what Kelvin Sampson. Just love him as a coach. He looked good coaching on the sidelines in the PMAC boy. At 7, I got Iowa State. At 6, I got Michigan State. We're going on a Midwest run here. At 5, I got Nebraska. 4, I've got the Wolverines of Michigan. At 3, I got Duke, led by Baby Boozer. At 2, I got Arizona, and at number 1, I got UConn. I know that Arizona's undefeated. UConn's lost a game, but Danny Hurley, he can coach basketball, and we'll see where they are come March, April. Kev?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Arizona. Then I'm going to roll to UConn. Look, UConn's 20-1 and playing pretty well, and this is an interesting team that I could see getting on a run and maybe making a run to win it all. Danny Hurley in March is pretty good. Michigan, they've had a really good season so far. I love what they're doing. I love what Dusty May does. Duke, number 4, and like Cameron Boozer, he's a really good player. I think the most unsung thing that he does, though, is he makes people around him a lot better, too. Nebraska, I would go 5. Love what Fred Hoiberg has done with that program. He won big at Iowa State, and now he's got Nebraska rolling. Very underrated coach, in my opinion. 6, I'm going to go Iowa State, where Hoiberg coached previously. I know they lost a couple weeks ago, but they always play great defense, and they're well coached offensively, very tough mentally a team. So they're a team you do not want to play Iowa State in the NCAA tournament. I'll just say that. 7, Michigan State. You could almost ditto what I said about Iowa State in the NCAA tournament. Izzo is a great coach, and again, you don't want to play him in March. Number 8, which is a team that I could see winning a national championship, played in it last year. I'm going to go 8 with Houston. There's nobody that is just coaches toughness and man-to-man defense better than Kelvin Sampson. He's one of my favorites. I mean, his guys, they just lay it on the line, and they will get in your mug and guard you all night. 9 Gonzaga, 10 Illinois. And Illinois is another interesting team to me, Brett Underwood. They don't, they're never preseason at the top of that Big Ten, but every year they finish in the top 4 in the Big Ten. So again, I credit a lot to what he does in his coaching. I'm also going to throw out 11 here because I'm going to go 11 and 12. I think both these teams will be in the top 10 by the end of the season. That's BYU and Kansas. Kansas, kind of got off to a shaky start, but the last 2 weeks they've played like a top 8 team, and I think with their talent, and I think they will be there at the end of the season. So that would be my group.
So we all had 9 teams that were similar there. And then with your 11, 12, who you think will be top 10 caliber, you've got BYU. So we're basically all the same, different rankings in the top 10 a little bit, but they seem to be the consensus top 10 teams in the country too. So that brings us to our mid-year coach of the year category. Sweets, want to get us rolling here?
Sure. Yeah. So for coach of the year so far, a lot of coaches doing great work out there. I'm going with Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. They're ranked number 1 right now. He's actually been Big 12 coach of the year before in his first year. I think it was 21-22. Doing a great job out there in the desert. They're undefeated, ranked number 1. But it's not just that. It's the way he's got them playing. He's got the players buying in. He's got them doing what he wants. They're talented and they're undefeated. I mean, you can't top that. Kev, who you got?
I'm going to go Fred Hoiberg. I just love what he's done at Nebraska. And Nebraska's, it's a big name program in football, but you look at their history in basketball. Danny Nee won back there some in the 80s, but it has been a graveyard for coaches. And it's taken Hoiberg 4 years to get it rolling, but he has them in the top 5. And again, when he was at Iowa State, he had them in the top 8 for a couple of years. The thing where, to me, Hoiberg is such a good coach is floor spacing and ball movement and that whole thing. He's very good offensively and how they get good shots and get shots that they want, move the ball, and again, with floor spacing. I just like to watch his teams play a lot. So Fred Hoiberg, to me, absolutely the midseason coach of the year. D-Mac, your thoughts?
Yeah, so my my mid-season coach of the year is Bucky McMillan. I remember being at the Final Four when the news broke that A&M was hiring him to be the next head coach. And, I've got a lot of friends in the Birmingham area that are big fans of his. When he was in college, he became the JV coach for Mountain Brook 20 years ago. And was still in college, ended up becoming the head coach in 2008 after he graduated college. In 2020 became the head coach at Samford, where I've kind of watched a good bit of his basketball over the years. And then now at Texas A&M. And I loved the hire when it was made. I told some Division III coaches that I was with that, man, A&M really, really did a good job with this hire. I did not think that they were going to be sitting at 16-4 like they are now. Thought it would take a little bit more time. So that's just a testament to how good of a coach Bucky is at 42, that, he's got these guys buying into his system, operating the way he wants. And, they're 7-1 in the SEC right now, alone atop the leaderboard in the SEC. So really, really coaching really well. and love it for somebody that, I caught a game in 2021 when he was at Sanford and was like, man, he does some cool stuff from a coaching perspective. And now to see him, leading the SEC right now is great. Sweets, I know you did your coach already. Any last minute thoughts on the coaching category?
Nah, I mean, I think all three of those guys are doing a hell of a job. We could have named a dozen coaches, that are probably just as deserving, but those were our three, and yeah, I think all three solid choices. Kev.
Yeah, I agree, and I do like what McMillan does. I think you got to really watch his teams play to appreciate what he does. He plays faster than anyone, and sometimes it can be viewed that it's a little bit helter skelter, but there is absolutely a method to what he's doing, and he just out tempos you and out efforts you, and his guys are in great shape. So I think that's a good choice. And again, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. And I guess let me throw one other in there. I agree. I think all the ones we chose were good. I guess one last one I would put as an honorable mention would be Dusty May at Michigan. What he's done is there's really good stuff. So and he's winning tonight. 3-point game at Michigan State. He's 19-1. I don't know if he'll pull this one out tonight, but if he does, you could argue that they should be ranked number one. That would be a huge win on the road. So we're going to go from here to Player of the Year
Yeah,
or mid-season Player of the Year.
yeah, that's good with me.
Start it off. Go ahead, Kev.
Well, I'm going to pick someone, and golly, it's tough because I think we may all have the same person. Maybe we'd give different reasons for this person, though. There's a lot of good players, and I think you could put 4 or 5 at the Player of the Year, and justify all of them. I'm going to go to within this. First, I'm going to go Cameron Boozer. Not he's had several games over 30, 23 and a half points, 9 rebounds, which are great numbers. But again, the best thing that he does is get his teammates involved. He does a great job with them. And then the other one that I'm going to do is kind of an unsung guy, but when you look at what he's done this year, he's been really good, and that's Darius Acuff at Arkansas. And I love good point guard play, and I look at what he's done. Arkansas could be in the top 10, top 5, but their defense has just not been good. But you take Darius Acuff for that roster, if he continues to play well, they can make a run in the NCAA tournament. You've got Patterson, who plays the point at Kansas as a freshman. DeBencha that's at BYU, and he's really good. But Acuff has been as good as any freshman point guards in the country so far this year.
I agree. I'll go next. We don't have the same guy, fortunately. I'm going with BYU freshman AJ DeBancha. I hope I didn't screw that up too badly. True freshman, he's averaging 23.6 points a game, 6.7 boards, and 3.6 assists on 53% field goal shooting. He just broke Danny Ainge's single game scoring record by a freshman at BYU. He's dumped in 43 against the Running Utes the other night. In just 20 games, in his career is 20 games old at BYU so far. He owns 3 of the top scoring 6 performances by a freshman of all time. And like I said, BYU's had some ball players there. Danny Ainge was hell as a freshman there. DMAC, look him up. No, seriously though, this kid's amazing. 6'8". If he wants to go to the NBA, there's a little doubt in my mind that he's going to be, one of the top 5 picks or so. Really that good, and he's 18 years old, just scratching the surface. DMAC.
Yeah, for the young guys listening,
we got to come up with what defines young, because my wife and I were talking today, and we see my wife's like, oh, she's on her 70s, she's not that old. 80's old, and I'm sitting here at 55, like I feel old. So what's old? Let's
When you pull up the Danny Ainge topic, who graduated BYU in '81, we're gonna say like guys 30 and under. We're gonna categorize them as young.
okay.
Um,
That's fair.
I had heard of him and knew who he was, but like I don't know a ton about him. So I feel like some guys, like some of my buddies watching this who aren't big hoops guys, no clue they know who he is. They probably can't even spell his name, his last name. So yeah, left BYU in '81 and went pro, and still living in Utah, I think. Isn't he with the Jazz?
Yeah, he was with the Celtics for a long time too, and he was a point guard for the Celtics, won some titles, and then won again as a GM and president too. And he was also a pro baseball player, and I want to say in Oregon, he went to high school in Oregon if I remember correctly, and I think he was All American in football, baseball, and basketball his senior year.
Oh wow.
That's how ridiculous that guy was.
So my mid-year player of the year, like you, Kevin, Cameron Boozer, 23 and a half points a game, right at 10 rebounds and 4.1 assists. I love how he gets his teammates involved. But this is a kid who's dominated every circuit he's been in growing up. A lot of times these sons of former NBA players don't necessarily live up to the hype. He definitely is. He was a two-time national high school player of the year. Um, consensus 5-star, and is just really dominating. And I think he's got as good of a chance as anybody as being the potential number one pick in the upcoming draft. So, a lot of times when you see some of those guys who are so highly touted, they don't necessarily play the team sport of basketball as well. It's a lot more about just them. And, Cameron's a really good example of being a team player all the way around.
I'd said read somewhere he was the second fastest in the history of NCAA to score over 300 points, 150 plus boards, and 50 plus assists. I think he did it in 16 games, and I think Ben Simmons might have did it in 15. But that's that's pretty good stuff.
And old Ben Simmons was one of the guys I was referring to as maybe not being a great team player in college.
He just as talented as you could ask for, but mentally, emotionally, and and then he just I don't know what happened once he got to the NBA, but he's
Though he doesn't really have any. When I say he doesn't, he didn't. He would have been good back in the '90s and the 2000s. His game doesn't fit today's style at all. You have to be able to shoot from the perimeter to play, not just in the NBA, but in today's college basketball game. And he just wasn't a good shooter. I mean, as simple as that. Um, so back in the '90s when you could be a first point guard and didn't necessarily if you scored 10, 15 points a game and you defended, but that's just not today's basketball.
no. I mean, there's nobody. Think of the top 5 mid-range jump shooters in NCAA or NBA right now, and you probably can't even think of 5 mid-range jump shooters because nobody shoots mid-range jump shots anymore. They all shoot threes or they go to the rack. There's no in between.
No, again, you look at Bama, they're taught a 15, 17-foot jump shot for them is a bad shot.
Yeah.
You either get it to the rim or you kick it to shoot it.
It's funny because DMAC, I know you're a big D3 basketball guy, but Grinnell, where Larry goes, they're notorious for I mean, they had a kid score 135 in a game by himself 10, 12 years ago. That's insane. But it's and they sub like hockey. They're in for 2 minutes and they just keep running them in and out. They jump over the boards and keep it moving.
So I'm going to spring a fun game on us here. Let's list not the best basketball player, but your all-time favorite college basketball player and your favorite all-time NBA player to watch or whatever. And for tonight's topic, we're going to exclude LSU because there's been some greats. Pete Maravich, even though I've only seen videos of him, would easily be one of my favorites to watch. But let's go non-LSU here. I'll get it started with college. JJ Redick growing up was probably my favorite college player to watch. And even though I was rooting for LSU and loved to see Garrett Temple shut him down in the tournament in 06, still one of my all-time favorite players to watch on the college level. What about you, Sweets, in college?
Favorite player to watch or best player? I'm going to go best. I'm going to go best. I'm going to go best for me. And I hate him with a passion. Not with a passion anymore, but I hate him still. Christian Laettner. That was a bad dude when he was at Duke. He was an assassin. I like when he stepped on that dude's chest from Kentucky. I was like, do it again. Step on him again. Let him know. That dude was just a killer in college, and he willed his team to a lot of wins. Not that having Coach Gazier coaching Bobby Hurley as your point guard didn't hurt, but Christian Laettner was probably the best college basketball player that I saw. Gav?
Yeah, so I'm going to go way back here with a guy. And if his team would have won the national championship, his team would have been talked about as one of the best college basketball teams of all time. They lost in the championship game and probably the greatest upset in college basketball history. And he's the guy that, as a freshman college basketball player, he played soccer growing up. And as a freshman college basketball player, that's a funny one. He mostly blocked shots and rebounded and ran the floor. But by the time he got to the NBA, his skill level at the position he played was the best. And so I'm going to go college, Hakeem Olajuwon, Phi Slamma Jamma. I'm telling you, if they would not have got upset by NC State with him, Drexler, Larry Michel, Michael Young, Alvin Franklin, Benny Anders off the bench, would have been considered one of the best college basketball teams ever.
So I was worried for a second. I thought you were going to pick somebody from the Fab Five for a second.
No.
When you said biggest upset, I started thinking, who the hell on that Georgetown team was under, I was thinking, he can't be thinking Patrick Ewing. Who else, when they lost to Villanova. Yep. And then you pulled out NC State. I was like, okay, that was a big upset too.
No, I don't think Villanova was that big an upset. They had a good team, and they played really well. It was an upset, no doubt. But look, NC State was a huge upset.
Yeah, they were. I think Villanova was an 8, if I remember correctly.
They were. They were an 8 seed.
I can't remember.
NC State was. They were the last team in the tournament that year. They won it. If they would not have won the ACC tournament, they wouldn't have got in.
I watched. My dad took me to Ogden, Utah, to watch NC State beat Ralph Sampson of Virginia that year.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they beat them in the tournament, but won. They won a lot of games in the tournament that year, fouling down the stretch.
Yep. Yeah, they I mean, that's just one of those things that was meant to be.
It was. It was crazy.
Because I think if they had played that tournament 20 more times, NC State wouldn't have won one of them. But they won the one they needed to, so
probably wouldn't have got to the Final Four.
Yeah, but
any other time. They did it that one.
So, NBA player, favorite to watch. I'm going to take 2 here. I'm going to go Steve Nash, and I'm going to go Dwayne Wade. When I was a kid in the front yard shooting hoops, I would always act like I was Dwayne Wade. Loved everything about his game. And then the way Steve Nash played was fun to watch. He was, even when he was up around 40 and you could still trade for him on an NBA video game, Steve Nash at almost 40 would still be my point guard. What about you, Sweets?
My favorite and my favorite player of all time, Irvin Magic Johnson. Uh, for my money, nobody made everybody around him, got everybody involved more than him. At 6'9" point guard, not the best shooter, but had eyes all over his head. He had it not just on the back, on the sides, top, everywhere. And just the passes he would make. And just the love he had for the game. I remember reading an article in Sports Illustrated one time. His rookie year, they won a big game over Philadelphia, and he was celebrating like they won the national championship. And Kareem told him, he says, "Hey, slow down, young fella. You've got 82 games this season. Relax. It's just one." And but that's how he was. He loved the game. He made everybody around him better. And that was my guy, Magic Johnson. Kev.
Yeah, this is really simple for me. Probably my favorite athlete in any sport of any kind to watch. He just wanted to dominate who he played. And it didn't matter if it was offense, defense. He wanted to dominate you on both ends of the court. And that's why, to me, he's simply the best ever. Some people can play one end really well and may play the other end at, moments. But this guy played both ends all the time, didn't sit out games, hit plenty of game winners, and that's Jordan. He's hands down the best. And again, just love to watch him play. Went to see him play 3 or 4 times in person, and I guess is the craziest thing I'm going to say here about is the thing I remember the most was in a game he lost. One year when they played the Hawks, and this is back when the Hawks had Mookie Blaylock and they had some good players, Steve Smith and Matumbo. They had a good team, won 50 games a year there for several years,
Post
and they
Dominic. Was it
yeah,
post
post
Dominic?
Dominique.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, post Dominique. Like I say, Steve Smith was their three, Mookie was their point guard, Matumbo was the center. I thought hard enough I could probably remember the two. But Bulls were down one. Jordan took a shot at the end of the game to win it and missed it. Went in and out. The thing that I remember the most was after he missed the shot, the way he walked off the floor. He missed the shot, turned around, didn't drop his head one bit. He kept his. I mean, he just looked straight ahead, walked off the floor. If you didn't know any different, you would not have thought he missed a shot, and that always stuck with me because some guys when they miss a shot they're distraught or something, but it was like, okay, I took it, I missed it. Next time I'll take it again, and the next time I will drop it on you. And he had many game winners. So just a different mentality. Kobe was close on that mentality. He was a dog that would play both ends. But the people that I've heard Barkley talk about it, the people that want to compare Jordan to LeBron, there's no comparison. Um, there's just not. LeBron don't play both ends of the floor. Uh, he's just not. He has to surround himself with great players. And don't get me wrong, when Jordan won some championships, he had some good players around him, but Jordan elevated their games. And again, I'll never forget, and I'll shut up, but I'll never forget when they played Kukoc in the Olympics and him and Pippen just wore Kukoc out that first time they played. And that was Jordan. That was all Jordan wanted to send him a message,
Yeah.
um, because of how much they were paying Kukoc to come over. So Jordan, by far, love the guy.
Uh-huh. And all of us could have. I mean, we could all go. Probably 10 deep with guys that are deserving as well. Larry Bird. Just watching him just dismantle people with his passing defense. I mean, just his basketball IQ was beyond genius. It was amazing at the stuff that he did. Watching Pistol Pete, the way he shot and the way that he could pass the ball, it was almost, watching the Harlem Globetrotters on an NBA court was how creative he was. Tons of great talent over the years. The one thing I want to say about LeBron though is and it's funny you brought it up, is this week he was trying to pump himself up for the greatest of all time, and he was trying to explain to us simpletons that we don't understand that the NBA in today's game, playing 82 games is much harder than it was back then, because they play at such a fast pace today. And then, with about 3 seconds of research, you go back and you see that the highest scoring era of NBA basketball was in the 1980s. So for all this up and down and all this, what we're doing here, they must be the worst shooters in the history of the world, because, I mean, it's just the guy constantly has to, like he's always defending himself. He's his own biggest cheerleader. And it's sad because he's so talented. I mean, he's undeniably, one of the top 5 basketball players of all time. But just a bitch. Damn.
I agree. Maybe the most skilled. I'll give him that. He's very skilled.
Yeah.
Again, though, the will to win,
Yeah.
the desire to beat his opponent, it's not anywhere near the level that Magic or not. Well, Magic too. Magic, Bird, Kobe, and of course Jordan. Those guys all had such a strong desire to win. And hell, I'd even throw Isaiah Thomas in that group too. He would take your heart to beat you. And played one year. The Pistons won a championship on a really bad sprained ankle to get a championship. No. He can talk about tempo all he wants, but those guys in the '90s, they didn't set out games.
No.
And that's the most physical basketball era that we've had. The physicality that they played with. You couldn't play if you couldn't play physical in the game in the '90s. B-Mac, I'm sorry we're going back here on you.
No, I've watched plenty of '90s basketball.
But Pippen had to graduate his game to a certain level, because when he first came in the league, he was soft.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get past the Pistons, and it took Jordan to elevate Pippen mentally for Pippen to help Pippen understand. That's right. He had the game that he had a migraine and he set out. And Jordan had to get him to elevate his game mentally to where he was strong enough to physically play, because those teams would beat you up, and there's nobody that watches the game today that thinks that the toll on your body is more than it was back in that era.
Could you imagine LeBron going down the lane and have Lambert and Mahorn waiting on him at the rack?
No.
He wouldn't have had he wouldn't have had to flop. They would have gave him a reason to flop like he was a fish on the floor. They would have given him a reason to do that. He wouldn't have had to fake it.
The way that he plays, do you think he would even take it down the lane against those guys? I don't. He would have shot it from the perimeter. Pulled up he would have shot it. He wouldn't take it down the middle of those guys. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Soft.
So I got one wrap-up question. It's a little bit of a trivia question. Do you guys know who won the first ever NBA MVP trophy?
No idea. I can cheat and look it up, but I'm going to keep my eyes on you until you know.
It's an LSU guy.
I was going to say Bob Pettit.
Yeah, Bob Pettit.
I was going to say that. That's, yeah.
So I had to tie in LSU basketball somehow.
If you wouldn't miss him, I was still going Pettit. I was just waiting but yeah. He was really the first good big man. He was before Wilt and those guys.
That's true.
And he's a super cool guy. If anybody listening wants an autograph, you can send him an item and he just autographs it for you and sends it back. So
that's cool.
I don't know the number of how many NBA MVPs will do that, but I can guarantee you over the last 25 years, there's probably none. You got to go back to the old school days to be able to do that. But he'll even write you like a note sometimes if you've ever seen him play and tell him a story, he'll write one back to you. So super awesome guy. So
That is a great story.
any last minute thoughts before we wrap up, Kevin?
Tomorrow's going to be a great day, the great day of basketball. We've talked about it the other day. You got BYU, Kansas, you got Arkansas and Kentucky tomorrow. Those are going to be really good games. You got Michigan, Michigan State finishing out tonight. And again, you mentioned Pettit. I'll mention this. Those old school guys, coaches, athletes, they would sign autographs. They kind of felt like it was an honor to the game. I can remember when I was in school at Oklahoma State, Mr. Iba would sign autographs for people we used to take. We would get requests in the office and go out. And I can remember one time going and getting him to sign a basketball, and he when he signed it, he wasn't pleased with his signature. And he's like, "Oh, that looks like shit." And that's exactly what he said. And I was like, "Sir, someone's going to be glad to have that." And he's like, "Oh, that just looks like shit." So again, just a different people. You mentioned Pettit; those guys were just different.
I mean, it's yeah. If as far as that goes, if you don't like being harassed and all that stuff, pick a different profession. You're making, some of these guys are making tens of millions. Some of these guys are almost billionaires over, from being athletes. And part of that is, we're paying money and, while I don't think you should be driving up to folks' homes or anything, if they get seen out in public and stuff and somebody respectfully approaches them, I get saying no once in a while, but do it with cool. Don't, because like I said, without the fans, you wouldn't be worth $500 million or whatever it is. It's just part of the job.
Yeah, I hate when I see a little kid who goes up for an autograph and gets told no. Now I get if it's the 30, 40, 50-year-old guy who's trying to flip it on eBay that that's what he's doing. Yeah, tell him no. But
Yeah.
To see, like a 7, 8-year-old kid get told no is terrible. So, well, off of that soapbox for tonight for me. Well, guys, that's a wrap of our Friday Night Hoops podcast. We will be live again soon, one time before Tuesday, possibly. Dive in a little bit more on hoops, and baseball is 2 weeks away for college baseball now. So we'll be diving into college baseball soon. So keep listening, subscribing, liking, sharing. We've had plenty of content uploaded this week on Twitter, now X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So keep listening to us, and we'll keep talking to you. So